Hello and welcome to the Weege Show, brought to you by Racetech from the Super Motocross World Championship from Chicagoland Speedway, which is massive, massive, massive. Kind of blew our minds when they had the Supercross at Atlanta the last couple of years, how big it was. This was even bigger. I think everyone thought, compared to Charlotte, which was tight in those confines of the drag strip, at least a 4-wide drag strip, but the drag strip last week at SMX really kind of restricted how much room they had to work, and everybody was excited about the room. I wasn't sure when I saw this track layout. I was like, yeah, it was bigger, but I don't know what they were going to be able to put into the track to create enough variance to create passing. And it looked that way at the beginning of the day. There wasn't, as we would say, a lot going on, but it actually got rescued, I think, later in the motos. The only problem was it didn't get rough enough early enough. It got rough at the end to make a difference. And then, you know, as one line gets so rough or one rut gets so deep, you have to switch lines. And that's the kind of stuff we were looking for. I'm also looking for this team's truck so we can shoot the best post-race show. Also right here on the RacerX YouTube channel. Track got rougher and there were multiple lines later. It just wasn't quite early enough. Oh, vlog on vlog. Vlog on vlog.
I got it.
We're not competitors because at least you're in a different language.
Maintenant que je suis avec Jason. Jason, tu vas bien ou pas? You have to say something in French, at least one word.
Bonjour? Yeah, we can do that.
Voilà, ça c'est fait.
Tell everybody that I will be there in Ernay. I'm going to Motocross the Nations. I've never been to one in Europe, but I didn't want to miss one in France, so tell your friends.
Me too, I've never been to Ernay, so it's gonna be my first time.
That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. That's Le Big USA, French journalist here that covers racing in the United States. Yeah, the Nations, I'll get into that in a bit, but let me find my crew and let's get a show started. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's just how we do it. It's this low rent. It's just me and a GoPro. There's my guys. Let's get this show going. We'll be right back. And thanks to Racetech and their gold valves. Do you know what gold valves do?
Better bottoming resistance, plushness, all the things.
Yeah, made in the USA.
Made in the USA.
Yeah, and more traction. You need it on these super motocross tracks because everyone's been thrown for a loop. I believe that Lawrence was running the motocross suspension and Sexton was running the supercross suspension, and to my untrained suspension eye, it was a much rougher ride for Chase. And yes, Lawrence's bike was bottoming in the 2 doubles and the takeoff to the over-under didn't seem to be a problem. Or just get gold valves, then you won't have any issues. We'll be right back. Yeah, Weege Show, we're back, and these guys came to Chicagoland. Wait, do you live here or California?
Chicago.
But you're going to LA.
LA tomorrow.
Wisconsin and
LA.
Indiana.
LA tomorrow.
So you're not local to California at all. This was your local race.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you just want to go to the Coliseum that bad.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. The scenario we were teasing, it's been a lot of Brian Deegan moments at the Coliseum.
There is.
X Games 360,
Yep.
beating Travis Pastrana. Or Pastrana like somehow got in, but the clock was expired. It's kind of dubious. Brian did the Ghost Ride, winning a Supercross.
Yeah.
What if Deegan Hayden wins and Ghost Rides it for the championship next weekend in the same building?
For the championship?
Oh, absolutely.
That'd be epic. Epic.
No,
I mean,
would it be
could
epic?
happen. It literally could happen.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
He's gonna do it.
He's gonna do it.
It's taken 28, 23 years or whatever for this scenario to unfold perfectly.
He's going to.
He's going to do it.
He's gonna do it.
Okay, you're Deegan guys.
Yes.
You'd be cool with that.
Why not?
Yes.
Why not?
But also the greatest souvenir in the sport. Where'd you guys get those CLs?
Mitch Payton's.
Mitch Payton.
Unbelievable.
Mitch Payton scores light.
Unbelievable. See you next weekend.
Saving 'em.
All right.
Yeah, keep that on the shelf. That's like a trophy. A CL where the mountains are blue, served up by Mitch Payton. That is a rite of passage in these pits, even though these pits are a lot different than the pits that we're used to in this sport. Okay, now, because my guys Tom Jornet and Kellen Brower attended the press conference and the media scrum, I have a little more information for you. Here's the lay of the land. It was very Daytona-like with the trucks and then working out of the garages here, the way this was set up. But Daytona's bigger as a facility and a racetrack than Chicagoland, but it wasn't set up like this with this massive track. And as I said, I think it was a little too simple early, but by the second moto, it did get tricky enough. Now, what we're trying to unpack is what exactly was Jet Lawrence trying to do in the second moto. I thought he had said that he thought that that would, if he let Roczen win the moto, it was going to affect the overall and shove Sexton back to 3rd overall. And since Sexton was the points leader, it would help Jet to make up some ground and maybe make his title chances a little better next week. I guess that's not what he was saying. I guess he's just saying he knew it didn't matter. If he beat Roczen with the Olympic scoring, you don't get points per moto, you just get it based on the overall. I think that's all that was. So if that's the case, where Jet is just like, I didn't need to win the moto and it wasn't gonna affect anything, that means that he was feeling some significant heat from Ken Roczen, like to the point where he's like, I'm risking it a little bit, and this is the guy that just went 22-0, and I'm just gonna let him have it. Baby gift for Roczen, whose wife Courtney just had their second baby a few days ago. But that shows just how good Roczen was. Like, this was not over. He was hanging in there, he was closing the gap, and Jet let him go. Do not count out Roczen for winning this title. And look, if you're Ken Roczen, first of all, you're very good at kind of playing the spoiler role, the go against the grain, do my own thing role. You're very good at that. You're very good in short series and adapting to new conditions. I was thinking about the versatility of Ken Roczen. This is a guy who grew up, he could handle those bottomless sand tracks in Europe. I remember when the Nations went to Lommel in 2012 and Team USA absolutely got their butts kicked, and we were like, wow, this is a totally different situation. Ken Roczen was awesome that day. Ken Roczen is also awesome at Supercross. He's good at non-sand motocross tracks. And we go to these weirdo tracks, and he's been very good every time. He's just so talented. He's just so versatile to be able to pick up on things so quickly. We don't know exactly what the track's going to be like next week. Everybody's saying it's going to be more Supercrossy, and yes, it will be, but they didn't nail it tonight, and they definitely didn't nail it in Charlotte, any of these teams and riders. Everyone was somewhat guessing, and somewhat right and somewhat wrong. The door is open, Roczen being 10 points back with triple points on the line to maybe steal this one. And when Roczen went over this finish line here, he was given the Valentino Rossi shh. I think he would love to do this. When it came unglued for Roczen with Honda last year, these guys know. These guys know. The industry is fickle, man. The phrase that you're only as good as your last race, it could not be more clear in this sport. And I know that we on the media side, look, we were singing Chase Sexton's praises hardcore last week, and now we'll be singing the praise of Jet Lawrence this week. So I know we get accused a lot of being front runners. I like to say all we're doing is pretty much saying that the guy who did good, and the guy who didn't do quite as good didn't do quite as good. I feel like that's just called being accurate. We get accused of it because people hear our opinions in the public, but I can tell you, I've been in these pits for a long time. People say insane things, good and bad, about riders based on one race or one season. So I'm sure Ken Roczen has heard. I'm sure Ken Roczen has heard. Maybe his best days are behind him. Maybe he's not the guy that he once was. And when you end up on the Progressive X-Star Suzuki team, a team that had never won a race before, it's got to feel like that the other factory teams maybe weren't thinking you could win races anymore. Roczen's a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. I don't think he's one of those guys that totally fuels himself on that, but for him to come in and upset the apple cart like this and win this title, I think it'd feel really, really good to him, beyond the fact that he'd win $1 million and get to win a championship, which just feels good in its own right, but a little extra there. And the same thing for Jet Lawrence, who I think with last week, we were all wondering, both Lawrence brothers had so much success, there's so much pressure for Hunter to lock down that 250 motocross title, which he didn't have wrapped up going into the finale, and pressure for Jet to continue and complete the perfect season. Would they be able to get up for these 3 playoff races emotionally? And the answer apparently is yes. That was a wake-up call last week. Jet said in the press conference on Friday that losing sucks, and yes, trying to have the perfect season lit a fire under him, but losing last week was more like a gas can over the fire, and he's ready to blow. He did. He was the best rider tonight, and Sexton just didn't have it. And I'm not a suspension expert, but even I feel that looking at the bikes, like I said earlier, that Sexton's bike looked a lot stiffer. Now, it's odd when you see them doing Supercross type jumps with the softer suspension. Like Jet's bike was super soft here, super soft on the landings of these, and the takeoff of what was the over-under bridge is now gone. But whatever he picked was definitely better. And now it's gonna be up to Sexton mentally to grab a tear off like that right there, wipe this one out and say, this was Chicago, it is nothing like Los Angeles. That is more Supercross. I'm the Supercross champ. I was the best guy at the more Supercrossy track at Charlotte. I can still win this one. And that was what this whole Hey, it's number 23. They're Chase Sexton fans here. It's just the pit stalls for the old NASCAR races here. This is what the dream scenario was when they came up with the 3-race format and the double and triple points. If you had told everybody last October, when they announced this thing with a press conference that I hosted with Daniel Blair at the Coliseum, if you had said, yes, and when we get to the Coliseum a year from now, we will have Hunter Lawrence, Joe Shimoda, and Hayden Deegan all with a shot at the championship and the big money, and Chet Lawrence, Ken Roczen, and Chase Sexton all with a shot at the big money, everyone would have said, dude, that is awesome. They also would have said, wait, where's Eli Tomac? But beyond that, everyone would have said, that's the dream scenario to have that much to play for next week. So get your gold valves, get on a plane and go to California, because I don't know if they're going back to the Coliseum ever again. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I teased that Deegan finish potentially. The heck is this thing? I don't even know, man. I don't even know. I don't know what this stuff is. Anyway, so much to play for, and I think this has been fun. We want to build the drama with the money and the World Championship and all that. That's going to take a while for the fans, the riders, the industry, the teams to really decide how prestigious this really is. It would be laughable to think that you could take 50 years of great history of the existing AMA Supercross and AMA Motocross titles and then dump something like this in here immediately and say this is a bigger deal. It's not. It's not a bigger deal, at least not yet. It will take years to determine how big this really feels. I think everybody knows it feels much more serious than Monster Cup or any other off-season race that we've had before. It's not that. It's more championship-like. It's not what they're all living their lives around yet. Maybe it gets there, but we can only talk about the way it is right now. I think right now it has a really fun vibe. It's kind of loose. They would love to do it. I mean, when you dangle, hey, 1 point could be the difference in a couple of $100,000, you're gonna go for it. Right now it's kind of in this void of like, it's serious, but it's kind of like, hey, it'll be cool to race in Charlotte where we've never gone before. Hey, this track looks like it could be fun. And hey, it'd be cool to race in the iconic LA Coliseum. Obviously, there's a lot of industry heavies that love to have a race there because they live in California, so that doesn't hurt. It's kind of the Monster Cup was just good time, 100% good time. Vegas Supercross was always 100% good time. Some racing sprinkled in. This is like a 50-50. I think it's like good time, it'll be fun, it'll be cool. And by the way, we'll battle it out for some money. It's serious. It's not Anaheim 1. It's not, you know, when we drop the gate at round 1 of Pala or a gnarly moto at Unadilla or Southwick or anything like that, at least not yet. But the vibe, like I said from last week, the vibe is good. I don't think this track was quite nailed right off the beginning, but it got better. It was fine. It wasn't a disaster, but remember, it's first effort. I'm sure Track Crew could think of some things they would probably do different, and they were also dealing with weather. It was super wet coming in here, so that kind of restricted how many obstacles and where they could put them, because it was so soft, is what they said, that infield. Something I'm thinking about, these NASCAR tracks, remember, they're designed to have any amount of water get to that infield, get off of the racetrack, get out of the bleachers. So that probably affects how soft it gets down here as well. But we don't need to think that hard. We don't need to get that technical. This is gonna be a fun shootout with some money on the line, some legacies somewhat defined. We're gonna talk more about the traditional titles as legacy defining, at least for now, but it's gonna be pretty cool. So we'll see you there. And Coliseum looks good. Got a nice facelift since the last time we had a Supercross there. And I went there for X Games a couple times as well. It looks a lot nicer now. So say you got to see the Parastyles in person. Come join us. We'll see ya. Thanks to Race Tech and Gold Valves for backing us.